Well, happy St. Valentine's Day. I hope you got lots of cards. So I wonder what love is for you. Not the sloppy messages on the front of the cards, but real love. The kind of love that may have held your hand as you grew up. The kind of love that puts you first always. The kind of love that melts your heart. The kind of love that welcomes you no matter what or who. The kind of love that washes your feet. The kind of love that reflects something of the glory of God. The kind of love that reflects something of the servant heart of Jesus. So here we are at what we now call the Transfiguration. And Jesus takes with him Peter and James and John and leads them up on a high mountain. They've been living and working and walking and learning from Jesus for some time now. They've seen what he's done. They've heard what he says. And this has built the faith that they have in their friend. But now, Jesus fully reveals for a moment his full glory and brilliance and its dazzling white. They see beyond the veil and they see truly who Jesus is. This is God, the same God who spoke to Moses and Elijah from those days of old. And what does Peter want to do? He wants to build a tent, holding on to this moment for as long as possible. But what he forgets is that Jesus is that living tent of God's glory and love, and they walk and they talk with him. God's glory for them is normally hidden behind the face of Christ. But for this moment, it's revealed. And what do we take from this encounter? We take that God's love is found in Jesus. For this is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him. And so they come down from the mountain and they listen and they watch and they learn and they make more mistakes and then they learn some more. But slowly they learn to show his love just in the same way as he has loved them. And we, his disciples today, need to listen and watch and learn and make mistakes so that we too reflect his love to the people around us. And how do we do that? Well, I want to tell you a story.
A long time ago, the sun and the north wind were arguing who was the greatest. Each one of them thought that they were the strongest and most powerful. And so they decided the only way to settle it was with a test. So they looked around for something to test their strength on. And below them was a man travelling along the road through the mountains. He was wearing a heavy coat, which he had buttoned tightly up. The sun and the wind decided the winner would be the one who could get the man to take his coat off. And so the north wind tried first, and he blew and blew with all his might down the road. But the stronger he blew, the more tighter the shivering man held his coat around his body. At last, exhausted, the north wind gave up. And the north wind said angrily, "If I can't do it, no one can." Now it was the sun's turn. And the sun beamed a friendly smile down at the travelling man, shining on him with all his light and warmth. And the travelling man immediately took off his coat. And he looked up and smiled at the sun. And so the sun, through its kindness, taught the north wind an important lesson.
So just as the sun's brilliance showed something of love and kindness, God's glory can be seen through love that is patient and love that is kind. It's that love that changes the world. And on this Racial Equality Sunday, some words from three great heroes of equality that speak of glory and power and love. First, Martin Luther King. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And building on this theme of love, Maya Angelou said, love recognizes no boundaries. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination, full of hope. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. You see, it's our ordinary, everyday lives and the kindness and love that we show to the people around us that make a difference, that make the Christian faith attractive. It's not our mountaintop experiences, however wonderful they might be. It's the way that we live our lives when we come down from the mountain that makes all the difference. It's all those little bits of love that reveal a glimpse of the glory of Jesus. You see, the Christian faith is simple, really, at its heart. Two things: love God and love your neighbour as you love yourself.
Well, I began with my reconstruction of a scene from the film Love Actually, and I want to end by referring to the quote that was used at the end of the film. And you have to imagine an airport gateway full of people arriving at the airport. And the quote says this: "It seems to me that love is everywhere. It's often not particularly dignified or newsworthy, but it's always there. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, old friends. In a time of disaster, people don't send messages of hate or revenge. They share messages of love and hope. If you look for it, I've got a sneaking suspicion love actually is all around us." For those disciples on the Mount of Transfiguration, their eyes were open for a moment, and they saw God's glory in all its splendour, majesty, and brilliance. For a moment, their faith passed into sight, and they could see what they believed. For us, we need to open our eyes too, to see God's glory and splendour and majesty and brilliance shining all around, but hidden in the faces of those people God came to serve and to save through his Son. God is love, and love actually is all around us. Amen.